Okay, let's talk a little bit about Chag Shavuot and different aspects and different meanings for this Chag. So Chag Shavuot is one of those holidays which are very unique in the Jewish calendar. There's no matzah like there is in Pesach. There's no Sukkah or Arba Minim like we have in Sukkot. There's no candles. There's no Megillah reading. No shofar blowing. In a way, there's not even a specific mitzvah or a very unique mitzvah. Man, I'm just thinking about you. That was left for us from this Chag. So the center of the Chag is really, it's something kind of invisible, which is Matan Torah. Now you should know that throughout the years, the focal point of hamburgers. The focal point of the Chag has changed because it was and since we left with all the things, people used to bring the bikurim to Beit HaMikdash, but we don't have it. So the focal point of the Chag became Matan Torah, and I think there's a reason for that. And because of that, because Matan Torah is the only thing that we have for the Chag, Shavuot really deals with a very deep question. What happens to a person when he finds or faces or meets a truth greater than he is, than himself? What happened to you? When you find something that is so real, or more real than you are, more truthful than you are, how do you deal with such a thing? So if we're going to look from a Kabbalistic point of view, on the Chag, it really deals with the connection between heaven and earth. What we call heaven and earth. According to Kabbalah, Matan Torah is not just a historical event, but a cosmic moment where there is a new pipe opened up between the upper worlds to the spiritual worlds down to this world, to the physical world. The Zohar teaches us that before Matan Torah, there was a decree, there was a gzeirah, right? The upper worlds was up, the lower worlds were down, and there were two separate entities, nothing in between them. Spirituality was only up there, and materialism only down here. Because of the event of Har Sinai, Matan Torah, that division kind of broke. The Levies broke, and God kind of descended to this world. And by doing so, mankind, humanity, received the opportunity to elevate itself up. Because it's always like this. When something goes down, something will go up, whether it's physics, whether it's spirituality, there's always equal chance or equal opportunity. So God went down to the mountain, gave the Jews the Torah, and if you forgot, you can watch the Ten Commandments with Charleston Heston. And I'm sure that by that time, by now, they would probably already remove the gold Rolex that he had on his hand when he lifted the Luchot. And that's why the Torah was not giving. The Torah was not giving to the angels, but rather the Torah was giving to people with, to humans, with body, with desires, with fears, with weaknesses, and so on and so forth. And the Kabbalistic intent behind that is not to run away from the world, but rather to reveal or to find God's light within our world, within this world. And it's not something that it's very easy for us to do because we don't want to do things. I mean, tell you the truth, we don't want to do things. So now we have the 7 weeks. Now we're counting the Omer every single day, so we have the 7 weeks. And the 7 weeks are basically what we call a Tikun of the Midot. Midah is, what is a Midah? Measurement, also qualities. So the Midot that we say a person needs to be metaken his Midot is, we refer to the qualities of himself, Midat HaKas with his anger and so on and so forth. Tikun of those Midot However, I want to tell you something. If we're going to take the word midah as a measurement, is by the way that you behave, you're also being measured yourself or being measured by others based on your midot, based on your measurements. And I'm not talking about 36, whatever the result, in 90, 60, 90, whatever it is, in centimeters, whatever it is. We're not talking about those midot. We're talking about the way you conduct yourself, your emotions, and so on and so forth is something that you're being judged and measured by others. So you better fix them. You're going to make sure that they're working right for you. Sfirat Omer, counting of the Omer that comes before Shavuot, was accepted or seen in Kabbalah as a process of purification, of internal purification. And we have the seven weeks that are corresponding with 7 sfirot, right? And these are the emotional sfirot, the things to do with emotions, right? And that's the lower sfirot that we're talking about, which is Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. And every week and every day is an internal work of purifying yourself or refining your own soul internally. And Shavuot is the moment when a person becomes the receptacle to receive the light that comes from above. The Kabbalah sees the event of Har Sinai almost like a wedding. A wedding between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Knesset Israel, and the Luchot, how do you call the Luchot? The tablets, right? They're not that tablet, that we have today. Those tablets, right? Are basically like operate as the ketubah between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael. And the covenant is a covenant of love and awareness. And that's what we need to know. First of all, we have to deal with it this way. So if we're looking for a psychological point of view on the matter, Shavuot represents the birth of what I call the responsible man, or responsible men. I'm talking about men, women in terms of responsible human, right? From a psychological point of view, Chag Shavuot symbolizes a transition from an awareness of a slave, right, to awareness of a free person, which is always, I have to say, a free person is first of all a responsible person. You can't be responsible without being free, or the other way around. It goes hand in hand. In Pesach, for example, where we came out of Mitzrayim, but the true freedom is not just to break away or to be free from something, but also to know what is the reason or what is the purpose for our life altogether. And I mean, the older I get in life, the more I'm almost like amazed. It's like, how come nobody ever talked to us about those things? And if still nobody talked to you about it, how come you don't ask those questions yourself about your own life? Don't always blame for others. It's like you have to come up with this question, like what's going on here? But so a person with no virtues, with no values, with no boundaries and meaning might and most likely would stay what we call a slave, right? Even if it doesn't have any chains on him. We're not talking about physical slavery. We're talking about a mental slavery, an emotional slavery. Whether, we're talking about between Pesach and Shavuot, there is a journey of 49 days. Those 49 days is the process in which we're going through. So coming out from slavery into freedom, right, is basically immediately. One day I'm slave, next day I'm free, right? However, building your personality or mature personality is a long process, and the process that takes a long time. So if we're coming to the whole concept of Naaseh v'Nishma, of we'll do and then we will hear. So it is almost a secret of emotional development, and what I'm talking about this. The statement of Am Yisrael, when it says Naaseh v'Nishma, there's a very deep and important fundamental psychological idea, as sometimes a person, a human, us, needs to obligate himself before he understands everything. we need to understand anything, and then we have a problem of commitment. No, here comes the Torah and teaches us the other way around. Sometimes, and especially in main things, you need to commit yourself, and then you need to understand what you are committing to. And that's the Naaseh v'Nishma. That's the Naaseh v'Nishma. So it's like, for example, a person wants to keep Shabbat, right? So explain to me, why do I need to keep Shabbat? Explain to me why I cannot turn the fire, or why I cannot do this, and why I could... Mister, commit yourself. You want to keep Shabbat, yes or no? Then I can tell you how. But you need to commit yourself. There's no such thing as what we call a trying Jew. I don't believe in that. No such thing. Either you're Shomer Shabbat, not Shomer Shabbat. Naaseh v'Nishma. So, you know, and the way of doing it, right, which really requires, the only way of doing it would require discipline, a dedication, and that will be, and when you do so, you're creating a new awareness. In order to create a new awareness, you need to understand that you need to have this discipline, you need to have this dedication. You have to do it. You have to do it. And this is what happens when it comes to love, or we're talking about parenthood, or learning, or spiritual growth. You need to have discipline, and discipline is something, unfortunately, that in today's day and age, is almost like a dirty word. Even though it's not a four-letter word, but we regard to it as something so profound, and it's terrible. Come on, discipline? You don't understand, when you don't have discipline, you are a captive, you're a slave. Only a person with discipline can actually achieve something. Laziness has no room in success. No room in success whatsoever. And you need this dedication. So, and the same thing when you love someone. Sometimes things would not go the way you want, or in parenthood, the kids don't grow the way you want, or they do things the way they want. Where is your dedication for your kid? Where is like, okay, you know what, I'm out of here. That's why, kids look the way they look today. Parents don't want to put the effort, so they just throw them away, okay, whatever, right? And that's why couples break. There's no such thing as like trying to work things out together. It doesn't work, it's not what I expected, bye, I'll see you. And it's horrible. So, and if we are just talking about, and that's the problem or the argument that I faced many times with people who are not observant, they're trying everything. I mean, the level of intellect by most people today is really down. It's lucky if they can even type anything in ChatGPT. Needless to say, they can actually understand what it's telling them. But everybody thinks that they're so highly intellectual, right? And they need this intellectual stimulation and so on and so forth. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you finished a book? That is not your school, talking about intellectual, right? But intellectual understanding by itself is not enough. It's absolutely not enough. And that by itself is not going to change anyone. By having an intellectual understanding is not going to change anyone. And you need to understand that practical life would change you. When you start dealing with reality, that will change you. As they say, you get a reality check. So when they received in the Torah in Har Sinai, right before that, there was what we call Kol Dmamad Daka, right? A very thin, refined silence versus to the noise of the world. I mean, the words that the Torah is speaking is very interesting. According to Chazal, the divine voice in Sinai was a voice that every person heard according to his ability and his ability to actually tolerate that voice. And from a spiritual point of view, you can understand it this way. The truth is not screaming on the outside. It's being revealed in an internal place that a person is willing to open. And regardless how good of a therapist you are, if your patient is not willing to open, all your therapy is not going to go. The same thing with us. The same thing with us. We need to open ourselves to the words of the Torah, to the words of Chazal. So, if you look at it this way, if the truth is not screaming from the outside, it would, as I said, is going to be revealed in the place that the man is a person, is really willing to open himself, right? And in the world that is so saturated with noise, go to the subway, go to the city, oh my goodness, this noise, this cacophony of sounds, it's terrible, right? It's really horrible. All of a sudden we have Shavuot, and Shavuot comes and invites us to come back to the quiet, to this quiet, called Mamak, this absolute quiet. And that's the quiet that we need to have. Oh, that's a nice watch. Getting married or something? Where'd you pick it up? Chinatown. Anyway, so we'll check it out later. So the philosophical point of view is there such kind of a truth that it really binds us all or require us to do, right? So Shavuot deals with one of the greatest questions in humanity: is morals or virtues is a human invention, or that there is a superior truth that obligates mankind to it? Did we make those rules, or it came from above? And comes Ma'amad Har Sinai and really helps us to express the idea that mankind is not, unlike Hasidut, is not the center of reality. There is a voice that is greater to our own individual needs or wants, to greater than social fashion or political power. There is a truth that we all obligated by, and this is a revolutionary idea. In other words, even the great king, the I don't know what, the president of the United States, according to the Torah, is obligated to human morals, just like a guy who's sweeping the floor. There's no difference between one or the other based on your position. We are all equal in terms of that. We all equal in that. So, if we are talking about freedom versus boundaries, modern philosophy sometimes sees freedom as lack of boundaries or limitations, right? In other words, free for all, do whatever you want. But the Torah has a totally different point of view, looks at things completely different. It says, it's fascinating. The Torah says that, according to the Torah, just by receiving boundaries and limits in which you operate, right, it allows you to receive internal freedom. For example, a person that learns Torah and learns the ins and outs, the boundaries of how to operate, then he's considered to be a ben chorim. He's a free man. Not a person that does whatever he wants, he comes whatever he does, no obligation whatsoever. The person like this is a slave, according to the Torah. A person that is controlled by urges, by anger, by jealousy, by desire, is not really a free person. A person that lives uncontrolled life is not really a free person. True freedom is the ability to choose good also when it's easier to choose bad. And sometimes it's easier to choose bad. And that's what we have, the story of Megillat Ruth, where we read, or some people read, during Shavuot, and it really talks about the secret or the idea of free choice, of choosing, and this is so symbolic that we do it on Shavuot. Ruth was not a Jew from birth. She was not a Jew from birth, and she chose by her own free will to be a part of the covenant of men and God. In other words, the Jewish people and God. And this is what defines us as Jews. Not what those anti-Semites, people who want to get more voices on their podcast, so now everybody hates a Jew. I'm not talking about this. What really defines us is the willingness to be a part of the covenant between mankind and God. So she was not, right? And she teaches us, Ruth teaches us, that the Torah is not all about so-called oppression of what you cannot do, but also, and mainly so, of love and free choice. As it says, Amcha, Amach, Ami, your nation is my nation, your God is my God, which is an expression of deep identity not only a theological or religious affiliation, but also something that represents a spiritual journey by doing so. Wherever you go, I'll go. Your God is my God, and so on and so forth. Mikasa, tukasa, and so on. So now, when we look at this, the Torah really acts as a spiritual anchor in a chaotic world. Right? One of the greatest difficulties of modern men is the excess of opportunities. We have too many opportunities to the point that people cannot decide. Right? I remember mixers for kitchen came in like one color. Today they come in any color under the sun. What happened is, you stand in front of which color should I get? Should I get this one? Should I get this one? Should I get this one? Should I get the other one? Come on, make a decision already. Right? We don't know how to make decision. People don't know how to make decision, nor are being taught how to make decision. So when everything is possible, everything is available, identity becomes very liquefied. It's like there's nothing solid. I don't think I've ever seen you with a watch. Well, let me see it. Take it out. So because of that, because it becomes so liquefied and so running. Let me see what color are here. Bolivar. Wow. Is this real gold? Wear it well and don't be late. Wear it well. When we're talking about too many opportunities, when everything is open, and we're talking about the identity that becomes not so solid, and the discipline becomes very weak. And because the discipline and meaning together with it becomes very weak, a person loses internal direction about where he should go, what is right, what is wrong, and so on and so forth. Comes Shavuot and give us a interesting psychological, if I may say, idea. A person needs not only freedom, but also an anchor. And the Torah, from this point of view, is not just a set of laws, but a structure that he allows for his soul to create stability, internal order, and a sense of belonging, which all translate into a moral direction where you're going to go with your life. Now, if we're going to talk about, we have some time, about personal revelation throughout the year, according to the Chassidut, in every Chag and every holiday, the energy that is associated based with this time is coming up again. It's kind of, it's rising up again. And Shavuot is not only a memorization of Har Sinai, but also a spiritual opportunity to hear again the internal voice that you have inside of you. Not a voice of oppression, but a voice that asks, what is it really important to you? What is in your life really important to you? Who are you underneath this noise that you are producing, with your life? Who really you are? What kind of life is appropriate for you? What is your purpose? What is your destiny? And that's why the Tikun of Shavuot is not just learning Torah all night long and so on and so forth, but rather the willingness to be in a state of quiet, internal quiet, so your soul can hear the answers. First of all, your neshama should hear the questions and also hear the answers that you're asking. Are you living, for example, from a habit? Or are you living from a meaning? Is your freedom brings you to growth, or makes you to be scattered? Matan Torah is not an event that happened one time in time, thousands of years ago. According to Chazal, every single year in Shavuot, there is a new gate, a spiritual gate that is opened up, a gate of revelation. And every year, a person is invited to come again, to stand in front of his own personal Mount Sinai, to decide what kind of a person does he would like to be. Have a Chag Sameach.